Back live tonight, you're in focus, and thanks for staying on. The National Freedom Party has acknowledged the Electoral Commission's decision to lift the party's suspension. In August 2022, the Commission resolved to suspend the NFP following a leadership dispute and the party's non-compliance with Section 12 of the political party funding. Meanwhile, the party says it plans to ask the IEC to extend the submission deadline for nomination of members. For more on this conversation, we're joined now by NFP's Canaan Mdletshe, as well as Ivan Vance. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time and coming on this evening, rather. Mdletshe, let me start with you. I mean, the letter from the IEC seems to indicate that they are let me just read it. In addition to the above and from the documents provided to the Commission, an elective conference was held on the 15th and the 16th of December 2023, wherein new leadership structure is said to have been duly voted. In view thereof, the Commission is accepting the same. Is that your understanding of which leadership is now being acknowledged by the IEC?
No, thank you, Butabo, and good evening to Mr. Barnes and the viewers at home. I think for me, what the letter from the IEC says is something that I'm not going to debate or discuss here. Safe to say that what we wanted, what was fundamental for the NFP was for us to contest the elections. The issue of leadership, I must say that cannot be determined by the IEC. The responsibility of the IEC is simple, is to ensure that South Africa is able to have elections every 2 years, and the elections are presumed to be free and fair. That's what the responsibility or the task of the IEC is. Other than that, I think they've overreached their mandate by commenting on issues that I think we must deal with them internally as the organization. What is fundamental, important for us for now is that we are going to contest the elections, and I think that gives us some time to be able to deal with all other issues that might be arising, including the one that we are talking about. But as I've indicated, I'm not going to say much on that issue because, as I've said, it's a matter that we are discussing internally. Yeah. But what is important is for us to work together to ensure that the NFP is able not only to contest the elections, but to make a valuable mark so that the voters of South Africa can be able to trust the NFP.
Mr. Barnes, what is your reaction to what the IEC is saying about who is a legitimate leadership recognized by the Commission?
First and foremost, good evening to your viewers. And good evening to Comrade Canaan Mdletshe. The response of this letter is merely responding to our application that we submitted some 4 weeks ago, and our constant communication with the IEC, pleading with them to acknowledge the current leadership. That is why the letter is precise on paragraph 4, as you've just read it out loud, that IEC has accepted our leadership that was elected last year, and safe to say that we are grateful for IEC's response, and we are moving forward as an organization. We're going to deal with these issues that Comrade Canaan Mdletshe is saying, as we are trying to resolve them. But it's clear the current leadership of the NFP, led by myself as the president of the organization, and the letter that IEC has issued is in response to the application which I personally submitted to the IEC. That is safe and it's clear and it's out there.
So what does that mean about the court challenge that you have originally, of course, put out, challenging the December 2019 conference?
The current court challenge, it's nothing but an ordinary application that is going to take some months, if not years, to deal with. That's a separate issue, and we did respond to IEC about it. That was nothing but a pure political ploy internally trying to halt the IEC's decisions to acknowledge which leadership should now drive the NFP into the 2024 elections and beyond. We are dealing with that matter, and it's either here nor there for us to focus on it. Our main focus after today's NEC meeting and press conference is to hit the ground running, as time is of the essence, and we are kilometers away from the finish line, and other political parties have started and they are far ahead of us.
Right.
And we keep on nursing issues that shouldn't be nursed at all. Right. We shouldn't be here discussing this thing. Right. Rather, we should be focusing out there, telling people that we are back and we are here to stay and we are going to contest the elections.
I suppose for people it's important to know who is back and who are they backing. At this point, is the NEC that would have been elected in 2019 a part of that we are back? And what role are they playing?
The leadership, the comrades of 2019, there is a case that is at the Supreme Court of Appeals that was submitted by Comrade S.B. Zulu, who, however, in part of our applications, did submit an affidavit in support of our application as the current national executive of the NEC. So comrades like Canaan and the rest of them, it's up to them as individuals whether they're going to join the current leadership of the NFP or they're going to continue doing what they do at the current moment. Yeah. But I'm still saying, let us remove NFP from unnecessary bickering. The leadership that's running the NFP is known and it's out there. Yeah. And we just put a positive picture.
Right.
Put a positive picture and put the positive side of NFP. Let NFP be seen as an organization that is not worried about petty issues, but focusing on critical issues of how can we rebuild South Africa from what it is.
Yes. Mdletshe, are you yourself, and I loathe to use the word, but I'll use it and say your faction, attaching yourself even to this meeting that would have been held a little bit earlier today that says we are back and we are moving forward as one NFP?
No, I think, Thabo and the viewers at home, it would be prudent for me to perhaps clarify this issue. That as Comrade Barnes has indicated, there is a matter before the SCA that is going to be held, I think, on the 18th of April, if I'm not mistaken. And we decided that we're not going to wait for that matter to be resolved. We felt that it would be important for us to participate in all the activities that are going to ensure that the NFP is united. I'm not going to talk about leadership at the moment because that is not our main responsibility or task at the moment. What we are focusing on is to ensure that we are able to go out to the people and convince the South Africans that the NFP is the party that they can trust with their vote. All other issues, I think this is not a platform to discuss them. And because once we start debating on what are the internal issues within the NFP, definitely will go on and it might affect our performance in the elections. I think what is important for me personal and other leaders of the NFP is to see to it that we go out there, we campaign as vigorously as we can, and we ensure that we sing from the same hymn book, and we are able to convince the voters to vote for the NFP. That is what we are seized with at the moment. All other issues perhaps are going to be dealt with as and when the time arises, maybe after the 29th of May.
Yeah. So you see, that's a tricky part about it. The tricky part about it is that you've got to submit a list of leadership to the IEC. And to say, well, we'll deal with it later is a little bit of a tricky situation, because who is going to form the list of leaders that you're going to submit to the IEC? There are funds that have been frozen that need to be released. And part of the reason why those funds were frozen was because there was no clarity on who is going to sign for those funds. So the leadership question is key to how you are moving forward.
I think, Thabo, I did try to explain that we are dealing with some of these issues as we speak, but what is our main focus is to go out there and campaign. Those issues are issues that we deal with them internal. I mean, if we talk about the issue of the list, unfortunately, we've got only until the next Friday to submit all the documentation, including a deposit and the list of the people who are going to be on the national and provincial and regional ballot. The list of the people are going to be on the list of the National Assembly as well as the legislatures. But all those other issues, I think, for us are key, yes. But we are going to deal with them internally. I cannot come here and tell the people of South Africa that we are having issues of submitting the list, because to some of the people like myself, to submit a list, even if you put Mdletshe at number 100, it's not going to be an issue. For as long as the NFP is on the ballot paper, for as long as the NFP members and supporters are going to get an opportunity to vote for the NFP, I think that's all that matters at the moment. All other issues, we are going to deal with them as we go along. But I can tell you now, it's not a trend smash. Right. It's not something that we're not able to deal with. It's not like we are hard enemies who cannot even sit under one room and discuss these things. We are going to deal with those issues. But what was important for everyone who loved the NFP was to ensure that the IEC lifts the suspension and were able to contest. That was the main focus. That was the main objective of every other issues, of every other attempts that have been made, including Comrade Zulu signing that affidavit. I think it was important for us to do that so that we are able to see the NFP contesting. All other issues that we are mentioning, we are going to deal with those issues. I don't think a political party can honestly focus on just list, because it's not only about list. There are a lot of other issues. But what is important is to make sure that the NFP members and supporters are able to go out there and participate in elections and vote for the NFP.
Yeah. I think what's key for those who want to vote for the NFP, it would also to understand if yourselves would be able to submit yourself to the leadership of this president that you are looking at here, Arvin Barnes, who was elected in that elective conference in 2023. Who is going to be the face of your campaign? If you go out there and you're making a manifesto launch, you're making a campaign promise, who is going to be held responsible for the delivery of that promise?
I think, Thabo and the viewers, it would be fair to allow us to deal with all those issues. As I've indicated, it's not like we are talking about heaven and earth here. We are only simply referring to an issue that is the NFP can be able to deal with internally, and we'll be able to do that. We have had a number of meetings where we're discussing some of the issues that you are raising, but this is not a right platform for me to clearly indicate or to demonstrate which direction are we taking. The reality is we are going to deal with those issues. For us, it's not a trend smash. We know that we've got a limited time, in fact, but be that as it may, for us, what is important is for the NFP to contest the elections. Okay. Those issues are going to be dealt with internally, and I think we have taken a decision as the party members and leaders that we are no longer going to go out in the public domain in using media or social net media platforms to discredit each other or to honestly seem to be fighting one another. That time has long passed, and we are focusing on one goal, which is to ensure that we are united in approaching the elections. All other issues are going to be dealt with as and when we go along.
So, Mr. Barnes, I suppose it's the same kind of message that you're reiterating, that there is a general consensus and understanding to stop bickering. I think that is the first seemingly condition that could have been put on the table for your cooperation, is the stopping of the bickering. And, of course, the other side to come on board and align with the processes that you would be putting in place in terms of the campaign. Is that the clarity, I suppose, that you have currently? Or are there other conditions that would have been put in place?
Let me first clarify to the members out there, the current leadership that has been accepted and responded to by the IEC. We have resolved to establish a committee that is going to solicit candidates to represent us at regional list and national list. And we submitted a date to those members to complete it at least by Tuesday, so that at least Wednesday we can submit to IEC lists. We are going to make the first payment on Friday to pay for the elections, and we promised that by the time it closes, we'd have fully paid for the NFP. Secondly, today we had the special NEC meeting where we resolved of rebranding the organization, and we have resolved that on the 7th of April that we're going to have a manifesto launch. Currently, we have a team that is preparing our manifestos and various different policies that we want to rebrand ourselves as the organization. So it's out there. The issue of lending an olive branch to comrades like Canaan and the rest of the leadership, we have tried it. After when I was elected, I did engage with Canaan on the 18th, where we tried to find each other, and it fell through the cracks. We did have a secondary meeting with various comrades that represented Comrade Canaan's side of concerns. We will still going to engage with them, but I want to send a clear message out there, and let us not be ambiguous. The current leadership that was elected last year is going to steer drive, and the president's face that we are talking to will be on the ballot and will be the face of the organization. And we're still going to engage Nabo Canaan. And by the way, we shouldn't even be here. After the letter that was issued by IEC responding to us, comrades like Canaan should have respected it and stepped aside and rather requested the meeting, rather than coming here and portraying it as if there's some sort of uncertainty. Is still another way of bickering.
So you are saying the internal processes that Mdletshe is talking about are still going to ensue, or are you saying the elective conference on 2023 settled the matter? There are no further internal processes?
The issue of conference settled the leadership crisis. That is why IEC has responded. Now, issues of political solution in terms of stopping this issue, where one would go on the media, pronounce himself as a leader when there's a leadership that was elected, will engage with comrades. That is why we went to Comrade Zulu, the national chairperson, Comrade Sibusiso Mkhabela, went to Comrade SB Zulu, engaged with him, and we tried to find each other, and that affidavit was issued. The issue of Canaan and the rest of the team, we will have to find each other, because I need him and he needs me, and all the members of the NFP need us to sing from one hymn book. But the conference of last year settled one thing, that was leadership dispute. Now our internal politics of making unnecessary noise, we'll have to resolve it. As Comrade Canaan is saying, we need to sit down and talk.
Again, let's reiterate. You're saying all the deadlines are going to be met in terms of all the requirements and processes that NFP needs to fulfill, and those will be done in time for the party to contest the elections.
Yes. That will be done. As I said today, we met as the NEC and resolved to establish a committee to deal with all these issues of meeting deadlines and making payments.
Yeah. What
we do have... yes?
Sorry, I just wanted to wrap up with Canaan. What is the indication from Mr. Zulu in terms of where matters stand now?
I think without speaking about the issue that is before courts, the appeal that was lodged is still before the courts, and as I've indicated that it will be held, I think, on the 18th of April, if my memory serves me correct. Other than that, I don't think this is the right platform for me to come and portray or display some arrogance when it is really not necessary. What is important is to send a clear message to NFP members and to the general public in South Africa that the NFP is going to contest the elections, and we'll be going out there asking for their votes, and they must trust us with their votes. I think what is important is for one to be bold enough, in fact, and mature enough to put the NFP before everything else. Because once you start someone putting himself before the organization, there is going to be a problem there. But be that as it may, our main focus right now is to go out there and campaign vigorously, hoping that the South Africans are going to be generous to us with their votes.
A final thing, Mr. Barnes, before I let you go, which I would have raised, I think, with Sheikh Imam as well, is the financial health of the organization. there were questions around whether or not the organization is still a going concern or would have been at a danger of liquidation.
We are dealing with issues of liquidation, as yesterday we were facing our creditors with their application trying to liquidate the organization, and the matter was postponed, and we are responding to their founding affidavits. But be it as may, the issue of financial accountability, after we engaged with IEC, they did advise us that as from 2019, 2020, and 2021 financial year, that the former interim national executive members failed to account for those funds, and hence currently we have appointed a legal team that has to deal with those issues internally. We have appointed a forensic investigator to investigate as to what happened, where those funds were put to. We have appointed an auditing firm that from now moving forward, will be handling the issues of accounting for any forms of finances from IEC to the NFP. Once that is done, we hope that the IEC will then respond to our plea as to say, let unfreeze those funds. We have accounted to what we could, but what we couldn't account for, we are dealing with the legal processes on the side.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your indulgence in coming on. I know it would not have been an easy conversation, very uncomfortable one, but we needed to do it this way because of just the nature of how the organization has been in terms of the internal conflict that has been going on. But I appreciate you all for coming on this evening. That's Arvin Barnes as well as Canaan Mdletshe. Arvin Barnes saying he is now officially president of the